fight to increase New York's minimum wage. Governor Cuomo has been calling it the fight for 15. Cuomo wants to raise the state's base wage in steps up to $15 an hour. He's already begun the process for state employees, as has New York City. Of course, not everyone in the state is on board with a $15 minimum wage. Among them, Republican State Assemblyman Kieran Lawler, who represents portions of Dutchess County. He also sits on the Assembly Committee on Small Business, and he joins us now. Assemblyman, welcome. So you oppose raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. You think it'll cost jobs? Is that the basis of your opposition?
I have no doubt that it will cost jobs. It will cost businesses their existence. Businesses that otherwise would be coming into New York will not come to New York, which will cost jobs. The people that are intended to benefit from this, lower skilled, entry-level workers, will be the hardest hit, because if you have to pay, right now you have to pay $9 an hour for a new person who maybe never had a job before, has very limited skills, and you're willing to pay them $9 an hour, bring them along, see if they work. But if you have to pay that same person $15 an hour, you're not going to take a chance on the newcomer just into the workforce. You're going to get somebody with experience, so who is not in poverty, who maybe is in their second job and wants to work this job at night or on the weekends.
I know on some logical level that makes sense. You raise the price of labor, and there's going to be less demand for it. But yet I'm looking at the Center for Economic Policy Research, or I'm looking at this letter with 600 economists talking about an increase in the minimum wage, who all say there's no impact in the overall employment rate when you raise the minimum wage. I'm also looking at places like Seattle or Los Angeles or Greensboro, North Carolina, that have raised the minimum wage to 15 or are in doing it in steps. No significant impact in employment levels.
Well, the Brookings Institute, which is left-leaning, their researcher who studies the low-income portions of the population, say he supports small incremental jumps in the minimum wage.
Which is what Cuomo is proposing.
Well, not really.
He is. He's doing it. He's not going to jump to 15 tomorrow. It'll be step by step.
Right, but by 2018, it'll be 15. Right. It's 9 now.
Right.
That's a huge increase.
Those are steps.
Right, but I said small increments.
Okay.
That's not a small increment. That's a huge jump. And we have a study from right here in New York State from the Empire Center, says it's going to cost 200,000 jobs. They can even break it down to the region. New York City is going to lose 95,000 jobs if this occurs.
And yet, Costco pays well above the minimum wage. Walmart, The Gap, Marshalls, Target, IKEA,
You make
Aetna.
a great point. You make a great point. This is actually good for the big guys. The big corporations, they can absorb this. Mom and pop can't. I've gotten emails and text messages from restaurant owners, shop owners. I have a person who called me the other day, owns a jewelry store in a mall, has been there for decades since the mall opened. He says, this is going to put me out of business. My business model is I hire high school kids to work with me. Some of them stay with me for a long time and get raises, but I can't go from $9 an hour to $15 an hour overnight. There's also the automation factor. So many things don't need human labor anymore, and you're forcing restaurants and other retail establishments into using kiosks and iPads.
The argument that if I'm that shop owner and I pay my employees more every hour, they'll have more disposable income in their pocket. They can come back into my store and buy stuff that helps me in the long run.
Then why not pay them $50 if that's the
because we're trying to keep it reasonable. I mean, 15
I would
seems
say 15
reasonable.
Is not reasonable.
Well,
there's a better way.
And here's why. Right now it's $9 an hour. You know what that is a year? $18,000 a year. At $18,000 a year, you still qualify for food stamps, Medicaid, and welfare. So everybody else is paying
Except
the
that
gap.
if you're making $9 an hour, you get the earned income tax credit, and that's where our focus should be. And it actually puts you up to about $16.50 an hour when you get the state and federal earned income tax credit. So that's where you really are. If we want to target the poor and the most needy, that's what we should be thinking about doing. Increasing the state earned income tax credit. It's a refundable tax credit. It puts money in the working poor's pocket, but it doesn't have all these other effects. You know, school districts are going to have to pay more. The state is going to have to pay more, which is a way of saying taxpayers are going to have to pay more.
We're in tax season right now, so people are filling out their tax returns. And
yes,
most people don't check off the EITC because it doesn't apply to most people. But
right.
Why, if you need to provide an earned income tax credit, why not provide it to the employers who then have to pay the increased minimum wage? Otherwise, you're asking a $9 an hour currently employee to make sure they go through all the bells and whistles and the hoops to get the EITC.
The governor is driving around the state in an RV saying, let's pay everybody $15 an hour, despite some serious warnings that it's going to cause problems and hurt the very people it's intended to help. Imagine if he was going around saying, hey, check this box and you're going to get an extra $8 an hour for every hour you work this year, people would say, okay, where's that box? Let me check it.
All right.
And it won't cause all those other problems.
The debate continues. Assemblyman Kieran Lawler, really appreciate you spending a few
Pleasure.
minutes with us. Up next, candidates moving right to get into the White House, not a new phenomenon, even though the current batch of Republicans are turning into something of an art form. They didn't just invent it. We're going to look at some big names in history who have led the way.